are so many assets or aspects of why one owns a classic car, and I think you go to a car show, you meet like-minded people, there's a comradeship, you talk to them, you feel their enthusiasm and they feel your enthusiasm, and it's all part of owning a car. It's all part of being involved in the classic scene. I've owned many cars that are now classic, Lotus Elans, Caterhams, TVRs, NGBs, and when I was in a position to buy a classic, I looked at those, but every time I came back to the Alfa, because it was really the first car that I really can say that I fell in love with the moment I saw it. And when I saw this particular model, it took me 10 seconds to decide it was the one for me. The original Spider was called Duetto, a name given to it by the public following a competition, but that name had to be dropped because of legal reasons, because Duetto was in fact the name of a biscuit that was used. So when they changed from the 1600 to the 1750, it actually became known as the Alfa 1750 Spider Veloce. We sort of lovingly called it the boat tail. In fact, in Italy, they called it the osso di seppie, I think I pronounced it correctly, and that means the cuttlefish bone. So the Italians had their own nickname for it, totally different to ours. But I say we call it boat tail, but looking at the Italian nickname for it, the cuttlefish bone, you can see where they got that name from. I can walk around the car and for whatever angle I look at it, I can see a symmetry, there's a beauty about it. The sculptured lines, the way the back slopes away or the front slopes away. But if I'm truthful, I love sitting in the car itself, holding that very slender steering wheel and just looking at the beautiful chrome dials and radio. There's a total beauty in the simplicity of the way it's laid out. It's not cluttered in any way at all. There's no pretense about it, but I can just sit there and just absorb its beauty, and I love it. Everything is right about it. There's enough chrome in there to make it interesting. The dash is very simple. It's just plain painted metal. On the Alfa, with all the dials very slightly angled towards you, the chroming detail, the fact that the radio is correct for its period, it works. It certainly works for me. It's a dream, actually. The Alfa was very advanced for its time, so things like brakes and steering, engine power, it's more than capable of keeping up with the modern car. But when you drive it, you actually feel at one with the car. It's not computerized, it doesn't have modern technology which stops it doing this or stops it doing that. It's you and your motor car doing what you want it to do. It rewards you, you can feel it, it comes back at you. You drive quickly through corners, being rear wheel drive, you can get the back hanging out, for want of a better word, and it makes you feel alive. You go out for a drive on a Sunday, and it's more than a drive, it's an adventure. You come back and you feel alive. You've actually achieved something and enjoyed it. So it really is. There's no other word for it. It's a dream to drive. The gearbox, it's a 5-speed gearbox. It works well. The engine is an absolute peach. In fact, looking at the engine is a delight in itself. But yeah, absolute magic. Alfa had been producing that engine for a number of years previously in various sizes, but the 1750 was always deemed to be the absolute sweetest engine of all. It's the one that everybody said was an absolute masterpiece. That wouldn't have stopped me buying the 1600, but it was the 1750 that I really wanted. The throttle response is very, very good for a 46-year-old car. I say it'll accelerate, so yes, it doesn't disgrace itself in any shape or form. They are rapid. It does have handling to match. I know that certain reviews have said, oh, they're more boulevard cruisers, but maybe the American cars were built slightly different to the European cars, and maybe they were boulevard cruisers. But certainly the European cars do handle well, and they are incredibly enjoyable to drive. The history of the Spider is very, very well documented, and its claim to fame, I suppose, and most people will know, or most people that go to the cinema will know, was its association with the film The Graduate. Dustin Hoffman used it as his transport. Now, I've never felt like Dustin Hoffman driving along, but it does make you feel special, and I can see why it was used in the film, because it was different. It was different to anything else the Americans had around at that time. I think it must have been a revelation when it was first seen. Yeah. Whoever designed this car must have stood back when they finished and felt proud, because the whole car is very simple in its style, and yet in that simplicity, it flows. Every aspect of it is beautiful. So it sounds awful to say, but just sometimes I just will literally sit in the car and just enjoy what it gives to me. It's a beautiful place to sit. Anybody who sits in one and just allows themselves to take time just to look at it, I think they will agree. It's gorgeous, it's beautiful. So they obviously feel the same way that I do. So it takes me back to a time when I fell in love with something but couldn't afford it, but it was always an aspiration.